Today, we're digging into a real 50-year mystery. But this isn't your typical whodunit. It's more of a howdunit. We're going to unravel how the basic rules of the American economy got completely rewritten piece by piece over the last half-century. And it all really starts with this one question that, let's be honest, a lot of us are asking. You see the headlines, right? Record corporate profits. The stock market is soaring. But for so many people, that's not the reality on the ground. It feels different. There's this huge disconnect, this feeling that the system just isn't working for them anymore. So what is really going on here? All right, let's look at our first clue. Between 1978 and 2018, once you adjust for inflation, the pay for the average CEO went up by 940%. I mean, just let that number sink in. It is an absolutely staggering figure, and it points to this immense concentration of rewards right at the very, very top. Now, let's flip that coin over. During that exact same 40-year stretch, what happened to the pay for a typical worker? It grew by just 12%. So while the economic pie got massively bigger, the slice going to the average person barely changed at all. You know, this isn't just a gap, it's a chasm. And all of that leads to a number like this, 31%. That is the share of all the wealth in the entire country owned by just the top 1%. Meanwhile, the entire bottom half of the country, they own just 2%. This concentration of wealth is, well, it's a central theme in our investigation. So, this really brings us to our first section. You could call it a tale of two economies. We're going to look at how the success of the overall economy, the headline numbers, somehow got completely disconnected from the financial well-being of the average American family. And this divergence, it creates two pictures that could not be more different. On one side, you've got that headline economy. Everything's booming, profits are up, wealth is surging. But on the other side, you've got the household reality, where a staggering 64% of adults say they're living paycheck to paycheck. This is the heart of the mystery. Two Americas living in two totally different economic worlds. So, the big question is, how did we get here? For this next part, we're going to jump in our time machine. We're going back to uncover the clues, the key decisions, and the major turning points that literally changed the rules of the game. This timeline here shows 4 critical moments that acted like dominoes. It really kicked off with a Supreme Court decision back in the 70s, picked up steam with deregulation in the 80s, took a huge turn with some big financial changes in the 90s, and then got put on steroids by another court ruling in 2010. Each one of these was a major pivot.
Okay, let's start with that first one. Back in 1976, the Supreme Court's Buckley v. Valeo decision completely changed the game for money in politics. Basically, by ruling that spending money to influence an election is a form of free speech, it opened the door for people with a lot of money to have a much, much louder voice.
And boy, the impact was immediate. This chart shows the absolute explosion in corporate political action committees, or PACs. These are basically organizations set up to raise and spend money on elections. All of a sudden, businesses got organized, and corporate money began to pour into Washington on a scale nobody had ever seen before.
Now, let's jump forward to 1999. With a lot of support from both political parties, the Glass-Steagall Act was repealed. For 66 years, this law had acted like a firewall, keeping your everyday savings and checking accounts separate from the risky, high-stakes world of investment banking. Tearing down that wall allowed for the creation of these financial mega-banks.
And the consequences didn't take long to show up. Less than a decade later, the 2008 financial crisis hit. Those too-big-to-fail banks, supercharged by deregulation, took on massive risks that just cratered the global economy. And the cost for ordinary Americans was absolutely devastating. Millions of jobs and trillions in family wealth, just gone. Then we get to the final turning point on our timeline. In 2010, the Supreme Court's Citizens United decision basically took the logic from that first case and put it on steroids. It removed pretty much all the limits on independent political spending by corporations, creating what we now call super PACs and unleashing a tsunami of money into our elections.
Okay, so these turning points weren't just a series of random events. They all worked together to build something incredibly powerful, an influence machine. So let's take a look at how this machine actually works and why it's so hard to turn off.
Now,
The key concept to understand here is something called structural corruption. And this isn't about individual bribery or illegal backroom deals. No, this is about a completely legal system that has been designed to translate economic power into political power, which then creates policies that generate even more economic power for those at the top. And this system, it operates like a powerful feedback loop. Think about it. It starts with record profits. A tiny fraction of those profits gets invested in lobbying and campaigns. That influence then helps secure favorable policies like tax cuts and deregulation. And guess what? Those policies lead to even higher profits, and the cycle just starts all over again, but stronger every time. And this machine has some very specific tools. In 2023 alone, a record $4.3 billion was spent on federal lobbying. You've got the revolving door, where nearly 60% of former members of Congress go on to become lobbyists. And then there are billions more in election spending from super PACs and these dark money groups where you don't even know who the donors are.
Now, after looking at all of this, it's really easy to feel, well, a little pessimistic, right? But the story does not end there. See, if the system was built by design, that means it can be redesigned. So let's move to our final section, breaking the cycle.
This table lays out a pretty clear blueprint. For each structural weakness we've talked about, there's a potential high-impact fix. To counter all that unlimited political money, you could have public financing of campaigns. To slow down that revolving door, how about a 10-year ban on lobbying after leaving Congress? To fight tax havens, a global minimum corporate tax. These are real, concrete ideas that get to the root of the problem.
And let's be super clear about the goal here. This isn't about ending free markets. Not at all. It's about restoring them. It's about rewriting the rules one more time to make sure that markets are genuinely competitive and to make sure our political system serves citizens, not just the biggest donors. And you know what? There's real reason for hope here. American history is full of examples of regular people organizing to challenge and curb concentrated power. From the trust-busting of the first Gilded Age all the way to the Civil Rights era, structural problems have been fixed before when people demanded change. Which leaves us with this final big question. This system, this whole influence machine, it was built deliberately, decision by decision, over half a century. The challenge for us now is pretty clear. Can it be rebuilt just as deliberately by design? Thanks for digging into all this with us today.